Right, welcome everybody to Crosby Garrett and to the old smithy, home of Tom Greenhow. Tonight, with the help of a few good friends from the village, we're going to tell you this incredible story. Now, Tom had a hobby, and his hobby was writing stories. Now, these were stories, real life stories about things that were around him all the time. And what I would call, I don't call them poetry, I call them stories in rhyme. And tonight, with the help of my special guests, we're going to let you hear a few of these stories. Tom's story started on the 15th of December 1888 in a little place called Bombey. Now, Bombey is just west of Shop. Now, there's two houses and a farm. Now, next to that is Brampton Grange, and it's set in a really lovely valley. Think on this is 1888, really lovely valley. Further up the valley, there's another little village called Mason, and further up the valley, there's another village called Mardle Green. Now, Mason had a school, and all kids went to school there. Mardle Green had a fantastic pub called the Old Dun Bowl. There's a picture up at the top there, and a road going right up, full of life for hundreds and hundreds of years. And so that's where Tom was born. And Tom's father was called John, and his mother was Dinah. And John was a tailor, spelled Tailor, tailor, meaning that he made suits. Now, he would travel around from farm to farm, and he'd measure them up, and sometimes he'd get there late and stop hour and get his measurements. Next day he would go on. Sometimes these farmers wanted their suits made out of their own shape wool. So there must have been a loom involved, because Tom says in a newspaper article that he had to thread, when he was old enough, thread thousands of needles. So that's what I assume. And when he got older still, he got to be able to help his dad to stitch linings into these suits and that. But Tom had another idea. And when he got to 15 or 16 year old, he thought, I've got to make a career for myself. So, and then later on, he wrote a poem called The Country Smith, which describes the way he felt at that time. So here is The Country Smith. Right, I saw the same old smithy as it was in days of yore, with the anvil ringing gaily and the junk upon the floor. I saw the smith at work with the sweat running down his face, and to my young imagination that was a perfect kind of place. I saw him short the old bay mare that used to kick like hell, and he did his duty nobly because he shot a good and well. And as he wiped the sweat away, he laughed and smiled with a cheerful glee. Now that was just the type of man that Tom was going to be. So that's a country smith. So off Tom went to sorry his time. Now that word comes from my father, and he would say to me when I was a young lad, right, oh William, because that's what they used to say, oh William, do this, oh William, do that. He said, saddle them calves. And what he meant was, serve the calves. Give them the milk, serve the calves. So saddle the calves. Anyways, Tom went to Saturday's time to be a blacksmith, and he was at Watermillet for 4 years. And when he was 19, he come to Crosby Garrett, and he got a job with William Burbeck. Now think on, Tom was 19-year-old, and if you look on these pictures, he was a bit of a good-looking lad, and he would probably have an eye for the women and the ladies, and they maybe had an eye for him as well. But he didn't have to look so far, because William Burbeck had a stunning granddaughter, and called Agnes, and Tom was smitten. Now Agnes was 6 years older than Tom, but he wasn't bothered about that. Anyways, he courted her for a few years, but Tom and William had to get on with the work. They had to get on with the work in the blacksmith shop. And they had farmers to see to, implements, they had horses to shoe, just all sorts of stuff, gates to make. But in among us, they designed these real nice things, and one of the things is these gate latches with snakes' heads on. Now in the village there is a whole row of them, and the best example of Tom's, because after William Burbeck retired, Tom carried on, and the best example of Tom's gate latch is on the old rectory barn facing the church. So it's at this point where I'm going to invite my first guest to the stage, so please give a big hand for Sarah Dunning.
Time-honoured, weather-beaten, old, what tales of thee might well be told, when men of learning, pride and power upheld thee as some kingly bower. They preached of heaven on Sunday morn, and blessed the day that was new born. They taught the simple village folk how best to bear their heavy yoke. Small kings were they, when sat in state and holding sway o'er grim debate. Within thy walls they dictate gave to yeoman, tenant, workman, knave, and in thy oaken panelled hall receive their tithe and dues from all. And thus their lives they lived in peace, to bid all strife and discord cease. All these are gone, to thee alone remain the beauties nobly worn, for guarded round by tall elm trees, and yews that whisper in the breeze, the fragrant hawthorn scents the air, a rosebush bloometh here and there. Here beech and ash and holly grow, and nature deems her best to show. She calls on all her myriad throng, and tunes their lips with many a song. And looking out across dewy lawn to where the hills unlock the dawn, a verdant valley lays between, with woods and meadows, pastures green, and Eden courses through the land, intent on reaching Solway's strand. And on thy utmost northern bounds, a wind-swept slope with grassy mounds, here rest the dead in calm repose, as when dull sleep the eyelids close. Some here are marked by tombstones rare and tended with the utmost care. Some lie unheeded and forgot, but all share in one common lot. And thus they wait till trump of horn awakes to life the judgment morn. The graveyard now its secrets keep, where threads the winding pathway steep, surmounted by a reverend pile, where priest steps forth on sacred aisle. Enchantment breathes a solemn sound, romance is here in all around. Great stone pillars ages old, Norman arches brave and bold, mullioned windows dimly cast, twilight glow when day is past. All these with thee were once apart, till time shot forth his fiery dart, and sundered with some well-aimed blow the ties which bound thee here below. Thou art no more the seat of power, from which a word might make men cower, but thou art still a lovely place, with old world beauty, old world grace.
Thank you, sir. Right, in 1913, Tom took over the business from William Burbeck, and in 1914 he married Agnes, and but sadly war broke out, and Tom was under contract to the government, and the Ministry in Defence, and he had to make 33 sets of shoes a week. That's a lot of shoes. That's sets of shoes. That's 120 a month. This was in among his other work, and because nobody had cars then, all the people in the village had horses, and he had about 100 horses to look after in this area. So Claire,
Yes.
what is it you like about Tom's writing then?
Well, as you say, they're stories with rhymes, aren't they? And I chose this one because the rhyming is a marching tune. Very good.
So she's going to read The Border Lass.
The Border Lass. Oh, did you see my sweetheart when he went down Carlisle Street? He was marching in the army that has never known defeat. For he came and joined the colours when he heard his country's call, and left the bracken fell behind with home and kin and all. Oh, but didn't he look handsome in his khaki battle dress, as he smiled across the roadway to greet his little Bess. For he's going with the border lads to fight a foreign foe, who has trampled on our freedom and caused a world of woe. And I think he was the smartest of the lads I saw that day, but oh, it grieved me sorely to see him go away. Though now I'm looking forward to the day that he comes back, when the tyrant has been vanquished with all his cruel pack. And what a welcome waits them when they return again, the victors in the struggle who have not fought in vain. When the world has heard resounding wherever ocean laves, the good old song of ages, Britannia rules the waves. 'Tis then we shall be married as the church bells ring again, and the organ peals out loudly in a mighty new refrain. When the earth is full of laughter, just like it used to be, and the wearied, tortured nations have once more been set free. Then we're going to a little farm beside the bracken fell, where bees go sipping nectar from the foxglove's trumpet bell, and a little mountain stream that goes leaping gaily past will murmur o'er and o'er again, ah, here is peace at last.
Right, so 1917, and Tom and Agnes had a son born, to be their only son, and so now Tom had his family, young family. He had a business, good thriving business, still under contract to the army for these shoes, and he used to, in the morning he would find time to sit outside at Smithy Garth and smoke his pipe, because he always smoked a pipe, and some say the only time he never smoked a pipe was when he was playing the organ at chapel. So anyways, he sat outside back, and he'd probably crushed corn for some farmers in the morning, and if you've ever been back at Smithy Garth, there's a lot of trees, and he would sit listening to birds and that, and maybe in winter time, he used to like watching us lot sledging, and not just my generation, generations before. And I had a few tales last night from people in, and what we used to do, because there was a footpath right up, we used to, when it snowed, we would paddle it like this, back and forth, till we got it right from top to bottom, and then we loaded sledges up and took it into the alleyway and punched it in through the alleyway so that we could get right through. And we'd set off at top and go like hell, down and over the edge, straight down and through the alleyway. And sometimes, and Ivor Almby told me, can you remember putting your sledges together? I said, yep, the string off the first one went, and you hooked back string on back, and we set off, 3 or 4 of us. Anyways, a fella that was going to come, but he can't because too ill, told me the tale that one night, he said, you never heard Tom say a wrong word to anybody, but he says this night he let rip, because Colin went flying down, straight through back door into Tom's kitchen. And now then, Tina, can you tell me and the audience how Tom has made an influence on your life?
Well, there's a photograph on the side of that door of the old kitchen range at Lee's, and it has T.W. Greenhow, Crosby Garrett written on it. So when we came 35 years ago to live at Lee's, we didn't know anything about him. In fact, I haven't known much about him until the last 2 days. But he was definitely, we were very aware of that there was this man, Crosby Garrett, and it's very nice to learn more about him. And I'm going to read, oh gosh, that's loud. I'm going to read The Blackbird, and I particularly like it because it talks about a lot of the things that make living near Crosby Garrett such a lovely place to be. Blackbird, blackbird, sing a song to me, as you perch so proudly on the tallest tree. Let it be of summer and the balmy days, or of blushing meadows bathed in purple haze. Blackbird, blackbird, sing it o'er again. Let it be the music of a glad refrain, or a happy love song to your feathered mate, as I stand and listen by the garden gate. Blackbird, blackbird, sing with all your might. Let it be of sunshine and a summer night. Send it through the valley with the babbling rill, ring it through the welkin, raise it to the hill. Blackbird, blackbird, sing a joyful song, now that winter's over and the days are long. Fill the air with music everywhere you can. Join the thrilling chorus with the pipes of Pan. Blackbird, blackbird, sing whene'er I stand, waiting at the portals of the promised land. Let it be your finest, beautiful and gay, as you did at sunset, only yesterday.
Now then, Tom always kept in touch with his parents back at Bombey and in the Mardle Valley. But he wasn't prepared for the letter that he got to say that the whole valley was going to be flooded. Now, this was during wartime, and the Manchester Water Corporation and the government had it all sewn up. They were going to flood the whole valley, 2 villages, and there was nothing anybody was going to do about it. Now, there was national uproar about this, and all the residents they did the best. Like when they were putting the markers in, level markers, they would grab them and throw them away, and it was a disaster. The old dung bowl there was flattened, and we had a lady, hopefully she's in tonight, who called Rosemary Lauder, and her mother and father had a meal in their old dung bowl the night before it closed. My grandparents were at the last service before the whole valley was flooded. But Tom was gutted, like he would be. That's where he was born. And in the book there's a poem called The Deluge, which Tom explains how he felt about the valley before, when the workers come, and afterwards, what it's like afterwards. About the only thing you can hear is maybe an odd sheep or two. And it's like that because they've took the sheep off the fells and up there, and but anyways, and the worst of it is, later on, many years later, the Manchester Water Corporation admitted they didn't need the water anyway. So that gave Tom an idea. Tom come back to Crosby, well, he was there in Crosby, and it gave him an idea. And Tom got in touch with a company called Gilkes at Kendal, a hydro turbine electric generating company. And together, Tom and this company built a dam in Smardlebeck. Now it's a mile away down there. They built a dam, fitted this turbine generator, and they cabled the electric from Smardlebeck right up past Moskill House and past the old Baptist Chapel, down or crossing 2 roads and a break and into the smithy. And so Tom had electric, and he would charge these glass batteries, and people from the village, and Ian's grandmother used to go down with a glass battery and get it charged, and she would maybe be able to listen to a radio or one light, But Tom was just an absolute genius. He was a genius. And, but, so, he was an engineer. He was an engineer. And he loved his cars. He loved his vehicles. And his first motorbike, there's a picture of it up there, it was a French Antoine. And he had to run alongside it and jump on, and then probably have to jump off when you conked it at the other end. But he had that, and then he sold that in Penrith, and he bought a car called a Rex Roadster, I think they called it. And it was a car, there's a picture up there with a basket over the front wheels, and your passenger sat in basket, and he sat behind. But Tom, he converted it so that it was 2 seats, so they can ride side by side. And that gave Tom the idea of doing taxi runs. And then that gave him the idea still to put a petrol pump in. Yeah. So he had a petrol pump, he had his car, he was doing a taxi run, and he did a lot of business, and we have an exhibition in here where there's invoices of stuff he's bought of different companies. TR Handler, dealing with them, Dunning and Co. He got on putting some of his poems into these Blacksmith's magazines, and there was some famous people cottoned onto him. And there's a fellow called Arthur Ramsden who wrote the books Swallows and Amazons, and he wrote 1,500 articles for magazines and loads of books. And he used to write letters to Tom and write to Mr. Tom Greenhow, my poet friend, or my musician friend. And another fella, Wilfred Pickles. How many people remember Wilfred Pickles? Yeah, well, Wilfred Pickles was a radio presenter and a television presenter, and Tom was like that with these 2 blokes. And Tom would pick Arthur Ramsden up in Langdale, tour him round lakes in his taxi car. Maybe not that one, maybe he bought a bit better one later on, but he toured him about, and it was amazing that his writing could reach these writers. Now, Simon, you used to look after folks on the Wainwright's coast to coast route. Now, with your holidays and your services, what was it with Tom's poems that struck a chord with you?
Well, I think one of the things that really struck a chord was Tom's understanding of how things change in the fells and the dales and the moors. And we used to get asked an awful lot by folks who were looking to start the coast to coast, what's the best bit and what's the best time of the year to do it? And we used to say to them, there really isn't an answer to that, because there's no one single best bit. It's such a dynamic environment with everything changing all the times. So we've got beautiful greens, all the shades of greens you can imagine in the Lake District and the Westmorland Dales. We've got the flower meadows in the Yorkshire Dales in the summer, and the heather moors on the North York moors in the autumn. So there really was no one single answer to which is the best bit, which is the best season. And Tom picks up on some of those in this poem. So the poem is the Hills of Westmorland. Oh, the wild, wild hills of Westmorland stand firmly set and high. Far out on the dim horizon, they seem to touch the sky. And this picture born of Lakeland is fresh as morning dew, as the grandeur of creation adorns the distant view. Oh, the wild, wild hills of Westmorland stand guard o'er wind-blown moors. The pride and joy of autumn days as scented heather lures, and lonely tarns lie nestling where silence reigns supreme, and the picture tells a story of some enchanted dream. Oh, the wild, wild hills of Westmorland slope downwards to the shore of silvered lakes, green border clad, to form a treasure store, ever flanked by verdant valleys where trees and bushes grow, all carpeted with bracken fronds as cool, sweet breezes blow. Oh, the wild, wild hills of Westmorland keep tugging at my heart, when bathed in purple glory of a golden sunset's chart. Old friends from the distant ages, when this brave world was new, and where they stood in bygone days, they're waiting now for you.
This project started, you'll probably laugh at this, but I got a phone call from Chubby's mother. Does everybody know Chubby's mother? She says, I've got a friend who wants to chat with you. She wants to chat with you about her grandfather. And I said, well, I'm not fella to ring to chat about Tom Greenhow. She'd probably know more about him than I do. But she'd heard that I'd done a slideshow in the village hall of a lot of old slides that used to belong to Willie Jackson. And there was 2 or 3 of Tom, one playing the organ, and another one stood on the top road there. And anyways, the phone kept ringing, and I thought, damn, I'm going to have to answer this telephone call. Anyways, she rung her up, she says, I'm coming out to see you. And I says, aye, all right then, and I'll park at Midlet Village. And I thought, right, well, this is a bit weird. So she landed one day, parked at Midlet Village, and she come over and she carried with her this book, and I showed her these photos and that, and she gave us this book, and I started reading it. Well, I'm not into poetry much, but I started reading it, and I thought, well, this is incredible. I passed this book around everybody at the village, and everybody read it, and they thought, get me a copy. So I found 2 on the internet, and Bradley got one, and I think Sarah was going to get the other, but maybe missed out on it. So I rung Daphne and I says, have you got any more of these books? She said, well, I've got 2 books full. And they got them published in 2014, sold a few in tourist information, and I think Heather had some up in shop. And I said, well, how much do you want for them? She says, we don't want anything for them. And I says, are you really? And she says, no, we don't want out for them. And I said, well, I'll tell you what, we're trying to raise money for church repair on the roof. I'll ask people for a donation. So people are just giving a tenner. The books were $6.50 when they were published, but everybody's just chucking a tenner in. So there is books left there. Anybody who wants a book, get one, and I guarantee you they're worth 50 quid a piece. Mine is. So on the front of the book there is a picture, and it's the most photographed picture in the village. And it shows the house that I was born in, Haybanks, and Freddie Jackson's house, and the church on the hill, but it's an autumn setting. And it's this point I'm going to invite my next guest to the stage, and this is Madeline Tinkler.
And it's called The Glory of the Autumn. The glories of the autumn, how soon they fade and die. How soon the mortal picture escapes our mortal eye. The glories of the autumn are on the garden laid, where flowers bloom in plenty with a deeper, richer shade. The glory of the autumn is on the harvest field, where golden grain stands ripened, a bounteous crop to yield. The glory of the autumn is on the hedge's breast, in crimson-coated berries, the bushes now are dressed. The glory of the autumn is on the river bank, among the waving rushes and the grasses tall and rank. The glory of the autumn is mirrored in the sky, shining brightly as the clouds are passing by. And the glory of the autumn is on the woodland trees, with crowns of golden beauty, they waver in the breeze. The glory of the autumn is in the wind that blows, as from a southern land it brings the fragrance of a rose. The glory of the autumn will soon be here no more, the trees again be leafless, which once gay colours bore. And the glory of the autumn will into winter merge, where raging storm and howling wind will sing a dismal dirge. How like is life to autumn that passes on the wing, prepared by winter tempests for heaven's eternal spring.
Arthur Ramsden, he's the way he was, bit of a joker. Anyways, one of his trips out, he'd left his scarf in Tom's taxi. So Mrs. Greenhow posted it back to him, and he sent her a letter back saying, "Thank you very much, Mrs. Greenhow, for sending the letter back, and I hope you're all right up in Crosby Garrett." And where's she at? And he says, "How are the two?"
Evaporated twins.
The evaporated twins. Aye, not the evacuate. He says, "How are the two evaporated twins?" So that was his sense of humour. But anyways, after that, Norman got married and had 6 daughters. So they were always back. Some were born there, some were born away after they'd moved away for a while. But they were always there with Tom's, and I know I've been told by Daphne that they used to go in and bang on old organs and make a hell of a racket. And Tom never ever mentioned, he never complained at all. He just thought it was brilliant, having the house full, and that was it. Right, so now I'm going to come on to some things that Tom made, and one of the things here is a strickle. Here, now this is a thing that you sharpen your scythe with. Now when I left school, one of the first jobs I had to do was learn to mow with a scythe. And I had to get on gear quick, because we had a lot of, when we cut a field, we would cut the field, but me and my father and my uncle would set off and we'd hack around dyke backs, we call it. So you cut it and fetch it into the field. But my father would not let me have hold of the, what called wedge carborundum. And he always wore the bib and brace, did father, and down here there was a special pocket for this carborundum stone, this wedged. And I used to say to father, I'd more 2 or 3 bits, and the churchyard then was full of Maori heaps. You know what a Maori is? Yeah. Full of Maori heaps. And I'd say, "Father, Maori heap, give us a tickle up." And so I said, "Give me a go with that carborundum." He says, "There's not getting out of my carborundum, they'll break it." Once I broke it. Oh man. But anyway, so Tom used to make these, and what he would do, he'd get a piece of wood and tar, he'd cover it with tar, but he would travel up to the top of Wild Boar Fell. Now up there's a little lake or tarn, is it a tarn? And round the edge there's all this Milston grit stand, they call it. Now we would bag it up or get a bucket full, fetch it back down, we'd cover this with tar, and then cover it with this grit and let it set, and then sold these to sharpen his scythe with. And that is one of his from his sale. So that's worth a fortune. Christie's, £1 million, that might be.
You shouldn't have told me that.
And another thing he used to sell was carbide. Now carbide was like a mineral type thing, a made up thing, and what you did, you put it in a lamp, and you had a little canister, and you put the carbide in, and you had a little water tank on the top with a dripper, and it would drip, drip, drip onto the carbide, and it would make a settling gas. Now this gas come up a pipe and onto the front, and you lit it with a flint, and you would get a light. Boat, and his motorbike had one on, so he would do that. The Methodist chapel, it was all lit by carbide lamps, and the pipes are still there. If you go in, you can see the pipes. Boat, what the local lads thought, there's another idea, another use for this stuff. Now then, becks were full of fish, and there was like 14 or 15 trout in every dub in Smartlebeck. And what they did, they got an old biscuit tin with a screw lid, and they put a heavy stone in it, put carbide in, tip some water in, lid on, chuck it into the beck, boom. And all these fish come up to the top of the water and they scoop them up. Anyways, and they were doing it all over, they were doing it all over, and down at Appleby, there was a fella called George Woppert. Now the Wopperts, do you know the Woppert family? Well, they were fairly high living people, they were, you know, well-to-do people, the mayor of Appleby and all this. Well, George Woppert, he had done it, he'd got out of this, but he hadn't let go in time and he blew his hand off. He blew his hand off. And they made him a leather hand that come out. Now, it was a bit of a bad thing for the Woppert family. One of the lads poaching fish by chucking carbide in. So it was all hushed up. It was all hushed up. But anyways, so that's some of the things that Tom did. And things that I had to tell, because it's just real life things. I used to go down and get fish out at Beck with a stocking on my hand. And get under a rock, and if you got a fish with a stocking on, it wasn't going to go anywhere. But anyways, Tom, one of the main things in Tom's life was his music. And he was an absolute genius musician, brilliant musician, and this is where it relates to me, because I like playing music, like playing my guitar. When I'm rehearsing and that, everybody hears, because it's turned up. But Tom played the piano, he played the organ at the Methodist chapel and the Baptist chapel, he played the organ in the church, he played the organ at the Methodist chapel for 50 years without a break. And there was a night where they had a bit of a celebration when he said, I can't do it no more. Because the arthritis was setting in and you can see his hand there swelled up. And but he also played brass. And one of his big things was the Kirby Stevens Silver Band. And there's two pictures of him there. One on his own with all his regalia and a tremendous moustache. And there's a big picture there with him with the whole band. And as I said, when I'm rehearsing, everybody at Village hears. So if you listen hard, you might just be able to hear Tom rehearse. There you go. Can you hear him? So, please, can you put your hands together and welcome the Kirby Stevens Silver Band Quartet.
That's as good as it gets, by the way. Yes, fine, thanks.
Move sideways.
I'll give the names of them, and you'll probably be, a lot of you'll know this tune. This one's my grandfather's clock. I did try and get some music that Tom wrote, but we couldn't find any. There was music, but maybe not what he wrote. So I asked the Silver Band, can you find some music that would be played in the 1920s, probably when Tom was 12? And they've come up with this little set.
Okay, after 4.
Yeah. 1, 2, 3, 4.
say something now? Oh, okay. Right. Okay. Sorry, this wasn't the right height, so I was like sat down like in a. I don't know. I don't want to do a simile because I'll get it wrong. I'll say something rude. Okay. Right. Yeah. We're here from Kirby Stephen Silver Band, and obviously Kirby Stephen Silver Band was a big part of Tom's life, and it's a big part of our life as well. We've been going since we think about 1850. Not us personally, obviously.
Well.
Yeah, not so bad, not so bad. So it's great honour, really, for us to come along and just play a few things that might have been played at that time as well. We think he played this beast, and I'm sure he was about 110 times better than me on it. But it is a bit of a beast, but nice and big and deep and loud. So we'll play a couple more pieces for you, and hope you enjoy it. Now I've got to find my music. That one.
This is Cruising Down the River.
That's not working.
Two bars in. Oh, 1, 2, 3, 2.
So this next one's called Four Spirituals. And in the house tonight we have 4 of Tom's granddaughters. So this one's especially for you 4.
Thank you.
Whether you're spiritual or not.
1, 2, 3, 4.
guess this is the final one from
It is.
They're going to stay with us tonight. Last night they ran off, but tonight they're going to stay with us and enjoy the rest of the show.
One, two, three, four.
Tom wrote about everything. I said he wrote about everything.
I'll just
So-
hold that because it's fallen off.
I just,
I'll just hold it.
yeah, he wrote about everything. So, Louise, why did you pick this poem?
I chose this poem simply because Christmas is my favourite time of the year. And the words, you can relate to the words in the current world today still.
So this is Christmas.
So Christmas. Oh, dream of childhood's happy thought, upon the memory clearly wrought, to see what Santa Claus has brought on Christmas morn. And oh, the sweets and gilded toys, supreme delight of girls and boys, a treat for them which never cloys, of joy unshorn. Content the Christmas fun to share, and never dream of worldly care. Maturer years bring deeper thought, that's why for us redemption wrought, and heaven's best should here be brought, that Christmas morn. We hear again the angel's song, re-echo round us loud and long. Peace to earth, be gone all wrong, for Christ is born. The shepherds heard the joyful sound, and passed the news to all around. With nigh 2,000 years of thought, the world with strife is overwrought. The reign of peace has not been brought, and seems unborn. But clouds that pass along the sky can never dim the immortal eye. The blame now lies with you and I, this Christmas morn. The message now is same as then, peace on earth, goodwill to men.
Thank you, Louise. So, Tom loved his village, he loved the church and the Methodist chapel, and he plays music and that. And he also always kept an eye on the stream, the beck. We call it the beck. It's not a stream, it's Crosby Beck. And my next guest, Felicity Booth. I'd like to welcome Felicity because we have a bit of a history with this beck, this damn beck.
Falls in the bed.
Now, Felicity, we have seen the beck in all sorts of moods, haven't we? So how has this beck affected you
Well, it's interesting because Tom writes quite a jolly little poem about the beck, but as far as we're concerned, it's a bit of an unwelcome visitor. Comes knocking at the door, tries to get in the cars, and it's definitely been in the garage, and yeah.
Felicity and Andy live at the bottom of the village, and the beck runs right past their windows, between my field and their house. And it goes down there, and if it can't go down there, it goes down there. And their house is like a boat in the middle, so.
Yeah. A leaky one.
So
this is the brook. I'm born on the slopes of a mountain where the sheep in the solitude roam. I'm rocked in a boulder-stepped cradle with a star-spangled roof to my home. I flirt with the rushes and bracken. I run and jump and I play. I feed from the mists and the showers. I sing and I dance all the day. The birds of the wild come to greet me when lights of the dawning are dim. They sing the gay songs of the freeborn and answer my crookedest whim. I smell the sweet scent of the heather from the rock-strewn path where I tread. I breathe the cool air of the morning while sluggards lie sleeping in bed. But life is not always so rosy, and storms come to lash me instead, as the winds blow down from the hilltop when the sky looks angry and red. I gather the smell of the bracken, the scent of the heather bells too, the song of the birds in the morning with sounds that come down from the blue. I bear them along on my bosom by ways that are pleasant to me, through scenes that are gaily enchanting. I carry them down to the sea. I scatter them over the ocean, where ships rise and fall on the swell. But sorry I am who must say it, I carry the tempests as well.
well done, Felicity. Aye, so now I've lived in Crosby Garrett all my life, and I was born in the house on the front of the book, Haybanks, and I've seen loads of people move into the village, people move out and that, and like Tom, it's a great place to live, and Tom knew the lanes and that inside out, and he thought it was a wonderful place, and next I would like to invite Bradley, who has helped me a big time putting this together, to the stage. So Bradley, why did you pick this poem?
I chose this poem because I think it basically describes the village that we fell in love with when we moved here, and the one where we never really want to leave. And the poem is called Crosby Garrett, quite aptly, and it goes like this. There's a little place named Crosby that nestles in the hills, and if you go and find it, your heart with rapture thrills. It's away from all the glamour and clang of city strife, for on a springtide morning you behold a better life. No rows of red brick houses, built with the utmost care, but just a simple village with farmsteads here and there. It's sheltered from the snowstorms and the gusty winds that blow through the wildest months of winter when you need a fire's glow. There are chapels in the valley and a church upon the hill where good folks go on Sunday and their souls with pleasure fill. There's a school there in the background where children go to learn the knowledge it requireth, their daily bread to earn. The landscape round the hillocks as you watch them play, and the mother watches o'er them that they do not stray away. There are roses in the gardens and flowers all the way. The birds are singing gaily and the bees hum everywhere. The fields down in the valley grow everlasting green, and on a summer evening light up with glorious sheen. There are lanes and narrow pathways where lovers come and go, and hillsides where the breezes shall never cease to blow. The cows lie in the pastures, content are they to know that good men provide for them against the winter's snow. In the meadows, men and maidens are singing out with glee, for the summer sun is shining o'er all the land so free. And then you climb upon the fell to view the landscape o'er, and the vision that you meet with will enhance it more and more. Away down to the lowlands you can see for many miles, and farther in the background are mountains wreathed in smiles. Then farther o'er the fell top you can see the heather bloom, and watch the glowing splendour in the sparkling rays of noon. Then away down to the river you go for a stroll. The hedges seem to speak to you, and nature's joy extol. The river running idly by, away down to the sea, tells of things now passing, and those that are yet to be. Then back towards the village, as you come you hear the sound of children's voices, and the echo oh so clear. There's a rectory standing there you'll see, among the trees so fine, where a good man used to live and teach the themes that are divine. There's a churchyard on the hillside to receive you when you're dead, and your souls live on in glory after this life's joy have fled. So that's the little picture I've tried to paint for you. You'll never find a prettier place if you seek the whole world through.
Now, so age was creeping up on Tom, and he was sort of on his own in the smithy, and arthritis set in, and he was struggling, but he had good neighbours. He had the Amy and Ernie Farrer, who used to have the shop, and the Mountfords, the Hodgsons up on the hill. Work was dropping off because things had moved on. Machinery had moved on, and there wasn't many horses left in the village. And but Tom was starting to forget things, and getting a bit lost. And what we would call it now was dementia. So 3 instances. One night Tom was found digging taties at midnight in the garden, and the front garden was all full of vegetables right from the road right up, and another time he'd gone into the shop, and he would go into the shop and sit down, and one of his sayings was, "Gosh, man, it's been a hard day." But he went into the shop this day and he had his suit on, and he said he was going to a funeral, but sadly the person had died 10 years earlier. So he was really getting lost. And another time he'd come up to the prospect where my mother and father were. Well, it could have been, maybe it might have been up to Croft, but he said to my mother, "Have you seen Agnes anywhere?" Well, she'd been long gone. So, and at this point, I'd like to invite my next guest, Richard Sewell, to join us. Give him a big hand. Now, even though Tom was losing his memory bad, he still wrote a poem. The Lament of the Gun. Tell us about it, Richard.
Well, it's interesting. I mean, it is about his starting to suffer with dementia and feeling lost in himself. I think we're all possibly 2 different people. And he could obviously sense that it wasn't right and he was losing the plot, really. I've got some personal experience of dementia. My dad had dementia before he died, and it's a difficult thing to deal with as a third party or a son. But the person concerned, you really don't know what's going on inside their heads. The title's interesting in as much as it's called The Lament of the Gun. And I just imagine him sitting by his fire, dozing off, and maybe he had an old shotgun in the corner that he was dreaming about. So here we go. I once had a friend, to me he was dear. We lived side by side for many a long year. We'd walked over green fields, by paths and through stiles, and he's lovingly hugged me for mile upon mile. When hungry, he roamed through the copse by the brook. I would get him his dinner by hook or by crook. And when he laid down, were I by his side, he knew he was safe, were whate'er might betide. But all this has passed, the things I love most, and I wander in loneliness, crying out, lost. We parted at Bombey, the land of the blessed, and there I laid down with the oxen to rest. I dreamt of my friend way down in his home, and I to be left here forever to roam. I dreamt of the place I had known all my life. No quarrelling there, no tumult or strife, of the gay humming kettle all covered in grime, and the simmering pan which I'd filled many a time. The vision now changed, I dreamt I was a ghost, alone in the wilderness, crying out, lost. All these things I dreamt that night as I slept. On awaking next morning, I bitterly wept. With the first rays of sunshine, I rose from my bed, and over the hill path my footsteps I tread. The scurrying rabbits away from me start. I have to have seen them once would have gladdened my heart. The call of the pheasant no lures for me hold, and the sight of a hare leaves me staring cold. No blue curling smoke from my pipe fills the air. I'm bound for some region, alone in despair. My sight has grown dim, my locks are all torn. I can scarce lift a hammer, so weak have I grown. And now I'm so stiff, I wish I was there, for all here around me is barren and bare. I'm tired out with wandering, 'tis no empty boast, but I'm still in the wilderness, crying out, lost.
So, right, so Tom realised it was time to call it a day. Call it a day and say goodbye to the smithy. And, but in a satisfied sort of way. He was satisfied with what he'd done, and eventually he went into Christian Head Care Home, and he died in 1971. So at this point I wanted to ask Alan, my farrier, to join us on the stage to read the Blacksmith's Farewell. Now Alan, why did you pick this poem?
Well, I'll be honest with you, poetry isn't really my bag. However, I got home one night after a long day shoeing horses, and I read through this book, and I realised how special it was. And this poem I've chosen really resonated with me, and I think the way he's managed to capture the essence of my trade and put it into words so beautifully really is special. So I feel honoured to have been asked to read this out tonight, and I hope I can do it justice. This poem is called Farewell. So time once more is the master, and I'm sorry, in a way, to part from the little smithy where I've laboured many a day. 'Tis no architectural wonder with historic relics rife, but it served a useful purpose as I've toiled along through life. A pavilion steeped in splendour, I never have called it such, but to me it was a haven, and I cherished it as much. For the clanging of the anvil was a music to my soul that has sounded down the ages as the ages onward roll. No trumpets herald my presence, or banners in cloth of gold, no front page news by papermen in letters large and bold. But these are the flights of fancy the things that I have not sought, and thanks that come of the doing is a praise that can't be bought. There never was a sordid moment, not any that I can tell, but many a story livened, and many a joke as well, and many a tale re-echoed to the scent of the burning hoof, while many a shout of laughter rose up the smoke-dim roof. But brands from the red-hot iron by my hands and arms are borne, with marks on my legs as a token where the half-bent nail has torn. Any my eyes are dim with staring at the leaping, dancing flame. If life was starting over again, I would that it be the same. Then what have these labours bought me? Good meal and an easy bed, a sheltering home of comfort where the night cloud swiftly sped, and clothes in plenty for wearing, with a Sunday suit of tweed, a book for odd spare moments. What more can any man need? But my limbs are somewhat shaky, I'm more than a wee bit slow, so now is the time to finish, and now is the time to go. No life is as good as a blacksmith's, let those deny it who can, then God be thanked who allowed me to do the work of a man.
Right, well done, Alan. So we're nearing at the end of the story, and I'd like to invite, I haven't got a lot to say here, but I'd like to invite the lady who got in touch with me to the stage. Welcome Daphne Park, which was Daphne Greenhouse. And as I say, we have 4 sisters here who grew up with Tom, but Daphne's going to speak on their behalf.
I am, yes.
Right, so when Bill asked me if I'd like to read a poem, I said no. It wasn't really one that took me fancy. And then last Sunday night, when I was rooting in a box, I happened to come up with one. And it's about Wilfred Pickles. So I said to my younger daughter, do you know who Wilfred Pickles is? She went, never heard of him. So I asked my older daughter. Well, she said, I've heard of him, but is he from the telly or film or whatever? I went, no, not really. So I thought, I don't know whether anybody in the room, I thought if there's any young people who are going to think this is crazy, don't know what you're talking about. So I asked Joyce, my cousin, she went, oh, I think people will know who he is. So, but if you don't know who he is, he had a radio programme, which he did with his wife, but he used to come round all the villages or whatever and go in church halls, and it was like a competition sort of thing. So as I say, I found this and I thought, well, this is much more light-hearted, so I thought, I'll go with this. So when Wilfred Pickles came to town to do his radio show, there were 30 local people all set to have a go. Wilfred was met at the station. It was only a one-night stand, but Appleby treated him like royalty and brought out the borough band. The band in front, the cars behind, and a banner to welcome the star. They took him to the Tufton Arms and left him in the bar. The night of the show came round at last. It was in the hall where they hold the flicks. From 30 competitors he invited, Pickles had picked 6. First to come was Tommy Howe. He was greeted with a cheer. Speak up into the microphone, said Wilfred. There's nothing to fear. Galbraith's daughter, she came next. She got a great big hand. Then on the stage walked Shadow Potts, a member of the band. The band struck up a rousing tune. The locals thought it slick. But what I thought did spoil it was Baxter's teeth did click. The 4th competitor came round the curtain, and lo and behold, it was Elsie Burton. She looked so charming and so gay as she cast her eyes on her husband Ray. She sat in the stalls looking so proud, handsome figure in a crowd. I love my husband, Elsie said, and a happy life I've always led. Wilfred shouted, you're right, when he heard that Ray was a Yorkshireite. As Elsie got further with the story, poor old Ray was in his glory. Once again she declared her love. My Ray, he's a turtle dove. I wish it had been 5 years sooner when I changed my name from Elsie Spooner. Well said, Wilf, you are a honey. Go on, Mabel, give her the money. Ray was so happy his wife would treat, then he'd take her home to Good Husband Street. So all you lads, for the love of Pete, follow the Burtons of Good Husband Street. It's taken Elsie to show the pace with a lovable husband with an angel face. Stay in at night, make her happy, always be there to change your nappy. Be kind and considerate and call her dear, but always try to keep off the beer.
So, we've come to the end of the show. So, have you enjoyed the story?
Yes.
Story was fantastic.
Yeah.
So now, I would like to I want all our readers to come up to the stage as we...
Before we finish, as a family, can me and my sisters just thank everybody for putting this on? It's been absolutely great. Really enjoyed it. We're not really poetry people, but we can't believe that so many people are so interested in what Grandad did and who he was. So thank you very much for coming.
Yeah, it's great. It's been an honour to do this, and it was a story that had to be told. And we've got a few people. I've got Stephen at the back to thank, who's done the sound and the microphones. And this was totally unrehearsed. Last night was the first time we'd all done this on the stage, and it's just run like clockwork. We didn't plan for weeks and weeks and weeks. It was just done. And the people picked the poems as they looked through the books and thought, this is my poem. So I thought it was just fantastic. Right, so can we have all the readers up at the front, please? And the band as well. Well, we'll have the readers first, then we'll walk the band up. So please, give them all a big hand. What a great... Go on the band up. Come on, neighbours. And you all shuffle across.